I'm Kerry Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. In this season of the Get Your New View podcast, we will be talking with you all about training. This week, we're going to talk about the return on investment of training. Just like any business process improvement, before we decide that we're going to embark on doing that change in process, we're going to document what the return on investment is going to be. And simply put, this is measuring the cost of what that thing is versus the benefit of that same thing. So when we think about training, what is the cost of the training? And what is the benefit of what's going to be learned? So it's often easy to find out what the cost of the training is. You can look at the cost for the training company to do your training. You can certainly look at the cost of having people engaged in the training, right? What is it costing per hour to have those folks spending their time on training? That can be included in the cost. And when you think of the benefit, that becomes a little more intangible until you sit down and really sharpen your pencil and think about it. So let's talk about how we substantiate the benefits for what we're going to get out of training. One thing, if you think back a few episodes, you can think about is the success of your project. When you think of a large project, like an initial implementation, and you think about what the cost of that project would be to fail, that can be substantial. Now, I'm not going to say that training is going to solve all your problems with an implementation, make that successful. But I am going to tell you that companies that don't have training are going to be far less likely to succeed than companies that do. So think about what portion of that cost might be avoided by making sure that you have appropriate training for a project of that size. Let's think about something a little less drastic. What about the cost of full user adoption? If you have a system that you're putting into place and people really don't use it, so maybe they just don't stop using the old software, or maybe they don't apply fully the solutions that you've designed for them, that is a failure of user adoption, which means that the cost of that project is wasted and the efficiencies of that project are not realized. So think about what the cost is of a failure of your users to adopt the software. And think about what the cost is of the mistakes that could be made if people are not able to execute on their processes correctly. If you have mistakes that come out of using a new system or process, that can be incredibly costly for your company. So what is the cost to avoid those mistakes? These are some pretty large examples. Let's talk about something a little bit differently. I want to tell you a story about a company that I worked with recently who did a really great job with the ROI of training. They had already had us come and do some training in smaller sessions with their team. And they wanted to engage in some training programs with us that were more comprehensive. They were a pretty large national corporation and actually a global company that wanted to start having some of their training be standardized. So they did a test training with a group of their people where they said they wanted these people to attend training and then to have a takeaway summit, they called it, at the end of the class. They wanted to discuss what they had learned and document how they wanted to extend that knowledge into the company. So they had a pretty large group. It was about 80 people who attended this training. And at the end of the training, we set aside some time to figure out what the takeaways were, what exactly was it that they were going to be able to apply back to their respective departments, and what process changes could happen because of that, and what else did they discover for what they could do differently. So really, they were making a study of how that training would be applied into their company. And the really cool thing is it wasn't all the things that you would think. It wasn't just concrete, we can make this more efficient, we can do this a different way, we can avoid this mistake. Some of the things that they documented were things like improvement in mutual understanding. So they understood what each other did in their jobs, the upstream and downstream effect that we talked about a couple of episodes ago. They talked about, and I love this term, intersectional empathy. So that not only did they understand, but they felt the pain of when people had a difficult process and had some feelings about how they could help those coworkers to avoid that pain. They talked about the ability to uncover mistakes, that they didn't understand all the time why mistakes were happening, and they spent a lot of time trying to research it and fix it. But because of the training that they had a better knowledge base to figure out what mistakes were happening and what to do about it, how to fix it. They certainly came up with a lot of concrete process improvement stuff, but the biggest thing that came out of this was that they realized that they could embark in some standardization on a large scale that would be a significant savings to the company. So based off of this training that they did with this group and the fact that they had their takeaway summit where they documented and really workshopped how that learning would be applied in their organization, they embarked on a whole new venture of things that they're doing that we were lucky enough to be involved in, where they began to standardize process across their company and across their global divisions. And when they compared the cost of the training versus the benefit of what was learned, their benefits far, far outweighed the cost. So there's just a few examples of things that you can apply to the cost of training that go beyond simple process improvement and have true benefits to your company. So here's your action item for today. What benefits can you see coming out of training? What are the easy, obvious things? What are some of the less obvious things that you think could be brought to the table as the result of training? And how do you quantify that? How do you put a dollar on that? As you think about it this way, does this in any way change your mind about the cost of training and really start you thinking about what the benefit of training is instead? Next week, we're going to talk about common training mistakes that you can avoid. I'm Kerry Peters. Thank you for tuning in to the Get Your New View podcast. For more episodes like this on YouTube, click the subscribe button and ring the bell to ensure that you get notified whenever new content comes out. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please share an honest review on Apple Podcasts. If you are ready to rethink today for tomorrow, look for the link below and contact us to speak with our expert team. You won't find the level of no-nonsense real-world experience we offer anywhere else, and we're here to put that experience to work for you. Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.